Please give it up for the oh-so-fabulous Jade Elektra.
Showtime. Welcome. And now, let's put our hands together for that girl with something extra, Jade Elektra.
Greetings and salutations, and thank you for such an accurate introduction. I've come here this evening to give you a masterclass on being fierce. And you can't be fierce, darling, without living. Thank you. Age brings wisdom. And I guess that's the reason why I've always looked to my elders for guidance and for strength. And I know that some of you thought that I came here specifically tonight to tell you that I look fierce. I look fierce. Thank you. And when I say fierce, I don't mean as in Kardashian fierce. I mean more like Langston Hughes, Bayard Rustin, or Sylvester Fierce. You know, I remember my mom caught me looking at myself in the mirror, and she said, "God don't like ugly. And he ain't too fond of pretty either." Now let's unpack this for a second. If I'm ugly, God hates me. But if I'm pretty, God still hates me. I'm screwed. But don't get me wrong, I love this woman. She's my mother. She makes cameos throughout my life. I kind of think of her as my older sister who's always in trouble. Her name is Rose, and she spends most of my childhood incarcerated for drugs. Thank God for my grandmother. She loved her some me, unconditionally. My grandmother's name was Carrie Mae, and she was from Savannah, Georgia. She only had about a third grade education, but she was the smartest businesswoman I ever knew. The best thing about my grandmother, she just let me be. Y'all leave that boy alone. If he want to play with pots and pans in the backyard, let him. That's what she'd say to my uncles when they were teasing me. I used to love to play in her jewelry and put on her earbobs. That's what they called clip-on earrings back in the day. And I put on her wigs just to entertain the family during the holidays. She loved it. But unfortunately for me, my uncle, my mother's youngest brother, he didn't like that I was getting all the attention. And let's just say he figured that I had a little strawberry juice in my veins. And from the age of 7 to 10, he took advantage of that fact. He told me if I told anybody that I'd just be put out on the streets because my mom wasn't around. And I believed him. So I told no one. I couldn't leave my grandma. But he wasn't always around. He started getting into trouble too. And that meant that I got to spend more time with my grandma. And she would take me to work with her. She taught me about handling money, cooking, cleaning. She taught me everything. It's a shame that she dies in 1982. Who's going to love me unconditionally now? You know, life is a collection of moments. Moments like when I started writing for the Tampa Tribune or spinning with my uncle at WMNF 88.5 FM, all at the age of 12. Or moments like when my mom goes back to prison in 1980, and me and my little brother have to go and live with my father. Not really a good time. I remember waking up one time and walking in on him when he was about to hit his second wife. I got in the way and I grabbed his arm, and he turned around and punched me in my face. First chance I got, I went and told my grandmother, and she grabbed me and her purse, and we drove across town to knock on his door. When he opened the door, my grandma pulled out her gun, and she said, "I'm gonna give your family something to do next Sunday if I ever hear of you putting your hands on this child again." Child, he never hit me again. You didn't let me finish. Not while she was living. Anyway, so I'm living with him. I move out on my own. I earn a scholarship for journalism and art, and I guess I'm an adult now. It's 4th of July, 1987. I haven't spoken to her in a while, but my mom and my little brother are at my front door. We mend our relationships over the next month or so. And I'm finally having the relationship with my mom that I've always dreamed of. Fast forward to July 18th, 1988. I'm expecting a phone call from my mother, and this is back when you had to be at home to get a phone call. We didn't have cell phones then. That particular day, I'm working a double. I'm at the record store all day, then I'm spinning at this lesbian bar called Paradise that night. So I get to the bar, I'm set up, I'm just about to start, and I see this black man walk into the bar. Sort of looks like my Uncle Marvin, but it can't be. He'd never stepped foot in a gay bar. The man goes and talks to the bartender, and then he starts heading for the booth. It is my uncle. My heart sinks. I know that something is very wrong. Marvin has come to tell me that Rose has died. Something about a heart attack. I feel abandoned and alone again. I spend the next 2 years looking for that unconditional love. It's 1990, early summer, and I've just gotten back from New York City. I auditioned for The Crying Game. Obviously, I didn't get it. I'm not sick, but I'm not feeling myself. I decide to go get tested downtown at the clinic. This is back in the days when you had to wait 2 weeks in order to get the results. The waiting room is kind of crowded. I'm hoping and praying that I don't see anyone that I know. And finally, they call me. I don't remember much about the social worker that was sitting across from me, except she sort of looked like one of my judgmental aunts. Honestly, the only thing I actually heard her say was, "You tested positive." The rest of it sort of sounded like the adults in a Charlie Brown cartoon. I walked in a daze for hours with those words repeating over and over in my head. I finally make it back to my apartment, and Still Magnolias comes on. And by the time Shelby dies, I am bawling my eyes out uncontrollably, curled up on my living room floor. I'm crying so hard my nose starts to bleed. This is a moment that I think is the end. But if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna see the world first. And after a couple of weeks of plotting of taking out this big loan, I wake up one day and I'm like, you know what, you're an idiot. you'll probably take out all this money and end up in debt for the rest of your life. And if you're going to be in debt, shouldn't it be for a house or a student loan? Well, I sort of start rethinking things and time goes by. It's 1992, and I decide to call an ex of mine in New York, Michael. I ask him if I could come up and look around for work. He says yes. He shouldn't have. It wasn't his place to say yes at all. It was his girlfriend's place, Grace. And my ticket was non-refundable. But fortunately for me, Grace tells me I can still come up. But by the time I get to New York, she's put Michael out. So I've come to live with a complete stranger. Best thing that ever happened to me. Grace introduces me to Sally's, which is a tranny hooker bar in Times Square. I know, we're not supposed to call it that, but that's what we called it back then. Next thing I know, I'm working 7 days a week, and I am surrounded by the cast of Paris is Burning. Angie Extravaganza, Dorian Corey, Willie Ninja, Pepe La Beja. Celebrities like Tito Puente and David Cole of CNC Music Factory and Lady Miss Keir of Delight are coming in to check out a drag show. This moment allows me to dream of a new life. This moment allows me to forget about my father, who told me the year before that I was ruining his name, and that if I kept running around with those faggots, that I was going to catch AIDS and die. Little did he know I already had it. I guess that's why, after reconnecting with my family and being away for 23 years, I found it a little disheartening to find out that I had 2 young relatives who are HIV positive. It was very interesting talking to my stepmother, Teresa, and finding out that my dad had been living on the DL and died of AIDS in 2005. But it was most disturbing to find out the truth about my mother's death. She died of AIDS in 1988. That means that that's 3 generations of HIV and AIDS in one family. I guess that's the reason why I speak up for people who live with HIV today. When I found out, I didn't dare dream that I would live to be 55. Hell, I didn't even think I'd make it to 30. But today, I am really, really blessed. I'm married now. I have a very loving and supporting husband named John. I am very blessed to get to do the things that I have always wanted to do. I'm a DJ, I'm a drag queen. I publish a monthly magazine called Pause Planet. I get to do wonderful things like travel. I've been to Europe, over to Zurich, London, Rome. I've even been to Huntsville. I've been blessed to perform at the Cotton Club in New York City. I've opened for Cyndi Lauper in Soho. I've performed with Beyonce on stage at the Roxy. I've listened to my music on the radio and in clubs. I've actually watched myself on the little screen and the big screen. All of this is possible because I chose to live. And trust me, I've lived, darling. And if that ain't fierce, I don't know what is. You know what? I'm I'm having such a good time, and I'm so glad that you were so receptive to my little story, that I'm gonna spin some music for you right now before intermission. Would you like that? I feel like celebrating, darling. This is our last night, and I wanna have a good time. Hit it.
When they think we're done and we can keep on gunning, everybody stops, but we just keep on running. So we take our time, yeah, we that new type. We gon' come together, we can take whatever. They can strike us down, but we just getting better. Yeah, it feels so right. Check it out, now you're looking at the new type.